The haunted hospital morgue. In the heart of a forsaken town, shrouded in the whispers of chilling winds, stood the remnants of St. Elmo's Hospital. Its once gleaming walls now crumbled, overtaken by the relentless grasp of ivy and time. The hospital had been abandoned for decades, yet it seemed as if life, or rather, the afterlife, still lingered within its confines. Among the brave and the foolhardy was Alex, a young urban explorer with a camera around his neck and a flashlight in hand. Alex was no stranger to the adrenaline rush of venturing into the unknown, but St. Elmo's was different. It was personal. His grandfather had been a doctor here, and the stories he told were not just of medicine and healing, but of unexplained occurrences that defied logic. The most intriguing of all were the tales of the hospital's morgue. It was said that at the stroke of midnight, the boundary between the living and the dead blurred, and the morgue became a place of communion. The dead, bound by their untold stories, whispered into the night, yearning to be heard. With a mix of trepidation and excitement, Alex pushed open the creaking gates. The path to the hospital was overgrown, the air thick with the scent of decay. But the allure of the unknown called to him, and he stepped forward, into the shadows of St. Elmo's Hospital. The hospital's corridors were a labyrinth of shadows and silence, each turn revealing a new relic of the past. Alex's footsteps echoed through the halls, the sound a stark reminder of the solitude that enveloped him. He passed rooms with doors ajar, where rusted beds and scattered papers told tales of hurried departures. As he ventured deeper, the air grew colder, the darkness more profound. It was as if the hospital itself was aware of his presence, watching him with unseen eyes. The occasional scurrying of rodents or the distant drip of water did little to ease the tension that clung to the air like a shroud. Finally, Alex found the staircase leading down to the hospital's underbelly. The descent was treacherous, the steps slick with moisture and age. With each step, the feeling of unease grew stronger, a palpable force that seemed to push against him, urging him to turn back. But the stories of the morgue beckoned him forward, and he could not resist their call. At the bottom of the staircase, a long hallway stretched out before him. The morgue was at the end, its door different from the others. It was heavier, sturdier, as if it was meant to keep something in rather than out. The rumors had mentioned an ominous warning, and there it was, etched into the wood, let the dead rest, or join them in their eternal slumber. With a deep breath, Alex pushed the door open and stepped inside. The door groaned on its hinges as Alex stepped into the morgue. The air was thick with the scent of chemicals long since evaporated, and the faintest hint of decay lingered at the edge of perception. Stainless steel tables, once pristine and sterile, now bore the patina of neglect. Drawers that housed the deceased were ajar, their contents long removed, yet the sense of their presence was undeniable. Alex's flashlight beam danced across the room, casting eerie shadows that seemed to move of their own accord. He approached the center of the room, where an autopsy table sat like an altar to the unknown. It was here that the whispers began, a chorus of hushed voices that swirled around him, words indistinct yet insistent. The whispers grew louder, more coherent, as if the spirits of the morgue were awakening to his presence. They spoke of unfinished business, of lives cut short and secrets buried within these walls. Alex felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. It was as if the very souls of the departed were reaching out, brushing against his consciousness. He stumbled upon old medical records, their pages yellowed with age, and as he read, the history of the morgue unfolded before him. There had been experiments here, procedures that pushed the boundaries of ethics and science. And there was one name that recurred, a doctor whose ambition had led to tragedy. The realization hit Alex like a physical blow. The hauntings were not random, they were anchored to the dark legacy of this place, to the pain and suffering that had occurred in the name of progress. The malevolent spirit made itself known, a manifestation of all the anguish the morgue had witnessed. It was a vortex of spectral energy that challenged Alex's sanity, its form ever-shifting, a nightmare-given substance. The confrontation was inevitable, a clash between the living and the dead. Alex fought with every ounce of his being, his will against the intangible. The struggle was not of flesh but of spirit, a battle for peace in a place that had known none. The turning point came when he discovered the doctor's personal journal, the key to understanding the source of the hauntings. With the knowledge gained from the journal, Alex performed a ritual of closure, offering solace to the restless spirits. The morgue, once a place of torment, became a sanctuary as the souls found their release. The escape from the morgue was a harrowing journey, the hospital coming alive with the echoes of its past as Alex made his way to the surface. The aftermath of the encounter left Alex changed. He had sought the thrill of the unknown but found a deeper connection to the human condition. The experience had transformed him, instilling a newfound respect for the veil between life and death. The legacy of St. Elmo's Hospital would continue, its secrets buried but not forgotten. And though the morgue was now silent, the whispers of the dead would forever resonate in the memory of those who dared to listen. Next is the story of Haunted Parking Lot. In the heart of a bustling city, nestled between the shadows of towering high-rises, lay a sprawling expanse of gray, a parking lot that had served the residents of the adjacent apartment complex for decades. It was a place of constant motion during the day, with the comings and goings of vehicles, the chatter of people, and the occasional laughter of children playing in the nearby park. But as night fell, a hush would descend upon the lot, and with it, an unshakable chill that seemed to seep from the very concrete. The first signs were subtle, easily dismissed as tricks of the light or the overactive imaginations of weary minds. Flickering street lamps cast long, dancing shadows where none should be, and the air held a persistent coolness that no summer heat could dispel. It was the attendants who noticed the oddities first, the way their breaths would fog in the night air, the sensation of being watched from the darkened corners of the lot. As weeks turned into months, the occurrences grew bolder, more tangible. Alarms would blare from cars untouched by living hands, startling the night watchmen who patrolled the grounds. Handprints, clear and defined, appeared on windshields and hoods, only to vanish come morning light. And the sounds, oh, the sounds that would echo through the lot long after the last car had departed. Footsteps, when no one walked, whispers, when no one spoke, and a dragging clatter, as if something heavy were being pulled across the rough asphalt. The residents of the high-rise apartments began to take notice. Whispers of unease spread through the community, tales of ghostly figures seen in the periphery, of voices calling out names in the dead of night. The bravest, or perhaps the most foolish, would venture into the lot after dusk, only to return with stories that fueled the growing fear. A spectral woman wandering between the cars, her face obscured by shadow, a child's laughter, chillingly out of place, a figure, cloaked in darkness, that seemed to watch from afar. It wasn't long before the first tragedy struck, a life claimed in a moment of terror, the details murky and whispered about in hushed tones. The police called it an accident, a misstep in the dark that led to a fatal fall. But the residents knew better. They felt the malevolent presence that now permeated the lot, an entity that reveled in their fear. One by one, they began to leave. The high-rise, once a beacon of urban life, stood increasingly empty, its windows dark, its hallways silent. The parking lot, too, fell into disuse, the concrete cracking, the painted lines fading. It became a place of legend, a cautionary tale of a spot where the veil between worlds was thin, where the echoes of the past held sway over the present. A renowned psychic was called upon to cleanse the area, to banish the spirits that had claimed it as their own. But even they were powerless against the forces at work. The phenomena only intensified, the activity reaching a fever pitch that left the psychic shaken and defeated. They spoke of a force beyond understanding, a power rooted deep within the concrete and the memories it held. And so the parking lot remained, abandoned and feared, a place where the whispers in the concrete spoke of things best left undisturbed. The parking lot, once a bustling hub of activity, now lay silent, its only visitors the occasional stray cat or the wind sweeping through the empty spaces. The high-rise apartments stood as silent sentinels, their darkened windows like hollow eyes watching over the desolate concrete expanse. It was during one of those still nights that the second incident occurred. A group of urban explorers, drawn by the tales of the haunted lot, ventured into the heart of the darkness, their flashlights cutting through the gloom. They were young and fearless, eager to capture evidence of the supernatural on their cameras and audio recorders. As they explored the eerie landscape, their laughter and jests echoed off the walls, a stark contrast to the oppressive silence. But their bravado soon waned as the temperature dropped, a cold that seeped into their bones and made their breaths visible in the night air. Then, without warning, the phenomena began. Their flashlights flickered and died, plunging them into darkness. The sound of footsteps approached, slow and deliberate, yet when they turned on their backup lights, there was no one there. Panic set in as the unseen presence drew closer, the sound of footsteps now accompanied by a low, mournful wail that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. In their haste to escape, one of the explorers tripped over an unseen obstacle, his scream piercing the night. When his friends found him, he was pale and shaken, muttering about hands, cold, clammy hands, that had grasped at his ankles, trying to drag him down into the concrete. They fled, leaving behind their equipment, their desire for adventure replaced by a primal need to survive. The incident only added to the legend of the parking lot, the story spreading through the city like wildfire, a warning to all who dared to trespass in the domain of the dead. The new phenomenon, too, became a part of the lore. The explorers spoke of a mist that rose from the ground, a fog that seemed to have a life of its own. It slithered and coiled like a living entity, reaching out with tendrils of vapor to caress or perhaps ensnare. It was said that those who looked into the heart of the mist saw visions, flashes of the lot's past, of the lives that had once crossed its paths, and of the darkness that had claimed it. The parking lot remained, a place shunned by the living, a monument to the unknown. And though the city continued to grow and change around it, the whispers in the concrete endured, a timeless echo of the mysteries that lie just beyond the veil.